Oh, hi. I'm here in the Regular World podcast, and we have Jurriaan Kamer um, as a participant. He's not a guest. We're just going to have a conversation, free flowing conversation, and he's with Unblock. But I let him introduce himself and talk a little bit about what he does and things like that. Okay, so
Yeah.
Jurriaan with
Well, thank you, Matt, for having me. I'm here in the Netherlands, in my house in Utrecht, and the mission of Unblock and my work is to unblock organizations, to make them better, and to use radical principles to create flow and human capital in organizations. So I'm a speaker, author, and organization designer by trade.
okay. Uh, we don't like the terms human capital because it reduces people to
Oh
money.
yeah, for sure.
And
I,
so
but I think human potential is what I meant. Like that's like it's the potential, the human centric way of organizing is what attracts me.
yeah, okay. Um, so tell us about the work you do in unblocking what and things
Hmm.
like that.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I've been in so many different organizations, all sorts of sizes, industries, countries, and the problems are similar across the world, right? It's organizations that are slow, hierarchical, bureaucratic, and have problems responding to change and to what the market and the world needs from it.
Mhm.
And it's both the way of organizing that we see is both not helping and not effective, and at the same time it's destroying, or it's destroying people's lives. And it's a bit dark what I'm saying now, but like in general, as you know, a lot of people are not engaged at work. A lot of organizations are crippling away, and it seems still that the a lot of the modern thinking and the best practices that have been out there for decades now, and we're trying to bring those new ideas to organizations to make them flourish and the people in it as well.
Have you had good response for people, or they go, nah,
Oh
that's
yeah.
bullshit.
No, no, for sure. No, and like the people that we work with, they show up with a challenge, with a tension, with a problem they would like us to crack with them, and that can range from our leadership team is not working effectively, or it could be like we want to change our culture because we're just stuck in meetings, or our decision making is slow, or all of the above. And so yeah, that's what we respond to. We respond to the challenge that the client has, and we're trying to do our best to improve the situation for them.
Okay. Um, yeah, with radical, we can there are two steps to it. One is co-management, which is what normally goes to self-management.
Hmm.
But we figured that there's no self, there's no company except by the people who inhabit it. And so co-management and co-ownership.
Hmm.
And in previous companies, I've always heard this thing about we need to have people feel like owners.
Right.
And how do you feel like an owner, not being an owner?
Yeah.
Uh, so that's the problem. And in hierarchy is a very thing to break down. So um, so tell me how you go about. So we had a company, 800 people. Um, Unfortunately, it was self managed for
Hmm.
a long time from the very start. But if we had not been, and the decisions were slow, we had to go up and down, up and down, up and down. Um, what would you do different? What would you recommend?
So you had a self-managed. You're talking about a self-managing company where decision making was slow and ineffective. Is that what you're saying?
Oh, no, before. I'm assuming that it wasn't self-managed.
Oh, okay. Yeah, 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 yeah. I mean, there's a lot of different anti-patterns in decision making. One of them is assuming that it's the leader that needs to make all of the decisions, right? It's
Yes.
common default way of thinking. Like I'm a boss, I'm a manager, I'm a leader, whatever you want to call it, which means I get to take all the decisions.
Right.
And people that do that, they are really missing out. If you are able to leverage the wisdom of the group, the wisdom of the crowd, I sometimes call it, then you get better decisions because you're integrating multiple perspectives and get multiple brains working on a problem.
Right.
And also you get better buy-in, right? So the chances that when a decision is taken, the actions that flow from that, and when they, when the actions come, when the action are put in place, and we had, the rubber hits the road, then the chances are much bigger that it's actually implementable or doable. So the lot of the work that we would do at that moment is to clarify decision rights. So for example, if you have a leader and there's a team, and what types of decisions can this team autonomously make without needing to involve the leader? For what decisions does this team need to ask for advice first? And what are the thresholds until for which types of decisions we really need to get consent from the leader first before we can take action? So it's all about clarifying things that are usually unclear. And when decision rights are unclear, we either default to asking for permission for everything, or we default to scheduling lots of meetings to make sure that we all agree and we get buy-in, right?
Right.
And there's a way to break out of that. There's lots of ways to break out of that. So that I'm pretty passionate about that topic. Yeah.
I got trouble with some device here. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Yeah.
Look at it before, but that was when I was taking it out.
I'm hearing something else as well. Interesting. Oh, now I don't hear you. I do not hear you, Matt.
We have occasions of people,
Oh, Matt's breaking up.
coming to you with a problem and then saying, no, we're not going to do that. You made reference to leaders, and
Yeah.
in my opinion, the leader is a more fluid thing. So I can be, I'm not the leading
Yep.
voice in this thing. But when you were talking, I was quiet and listened. So
Yeah.
it's a very fluid thing. So
Mhm.
lip sync is off.
Well, it's good. It's good now. Like Matt, I don't know what others were experiencing. What I saw you talk and then hear your voice differently, but it looks like you're synchronized again.
Okay.
So it would be helpful for me to if you can repeat the question or the topic. Leadership is fluid, I think you were saying.
If you mentioned leaders, in leaders,
Yeah.
to the radical view, is more like it's a co-managed place where in certain areas I'm the
Mhm.
leader, in certain other areas you're the leader,
Yeah.
and there's no imposed leader, which is what you're talking about, a boss.
Mhm. Yeah.
We call him the boss, and everybody underneath them are bosses as well. Um, so, you're talking about bosses, right?
In that sense, I'm talking about bosses or the people that call themselves leaders in more traditional organizations. Yeah. Yeah, I've been inside a lot of self-managing organizations, and I've built one over the last 7 years as well. The type of leadership that I'm talking about is not the same as what I mentioned before.
Okay.
The typical clients are the ones that have that have a more hierarchical system, and they want to find ways to make them more healthy. Ideally, and I'd love to try that once in a traditional organization. Leadership is something, or leadership roles are elected, like we had like we have in our self-managing organizations, where it's like, you know what, we need someone, we need to distribute some authority to a role that has some decision rights. So, and we believe that's a good idea. And so it's helpful to have someone in a role that maybe we call it the circle leader or whatever it is. Let's hold an election. Who do we think here is best suited to take on this role? But also that role will not be forever. It's a role that needs to be that will expire every 3 to 6 months, and then we hold another election and see who's best then, and that creates like an hygienic system where, like a self-correcting system, right? If the
Yeah.
if the elected leader does not do their job properly, they'll be out of that position soon. So we don't have those kinds of mechanisms in more traditional organizations, unfortunately.
No, we don't. We have hierarchy, and there's
Yeah.
layers to it. And
I mean, Matt, I think you're saying hierarchy. It's interesting because hierarchy in itself is not necessarily bad.
no, it's not. It's not.
It has pros and cons, but there's a the problem, because hierarchy only is literally, it comes from Greek, right, or from Latin, I don't know precisely, but it means order of things, right? It's like there's an order, and even in nature we have hierarchy, right? There's something, there's like a root of a tree, and there's a then you have leaves, like there's an order of things that is there. The problem obviously is imposed hierarchy, like you mentioned before, and imposed authority. It was I spoke to Gerard Endenburg a couple of years ago. He's the founding father of sociocracy, and from there came holacracy and some other movements. But he literally said that, like, hierarchy is not bad. It's just we have to be very careful about how to use it properly.
Yeah, no, it's not bad. And like I said, there's always hierarchy. Even the two of us, when one's talking, you're listening. When you're talking, I'm listening.
Yeah.
And I wish I could get the audience into this thing as well, because they're now we're imposing our hierarchy. It's just you and me as leaders, and they're listening. Yeah. And the only way to get to ask questions is in the
yeah. But there's also a hierarchy between us, Matt, because you invited me into your podcast. So you are inviting me to play in your field, which then also means that I need to be respectful of that. And that if I start doing strange things, you'll kick me out, which means like you have the authority over this podcast, which is a good thing in this case.
Yeah,
so it's a healthy thing. It wouldn't be healthy if I would kick you out, Matt. Like that wouldn't make any sense in this space.
I'll take that note.
And I think the point I'm trying to make is that there's formal hierarchy and there's also informal hierarchy, right? In any human system, there is positions of power that is felt, maybe because someone is wise or old or experienced. That voice will just count more than other people's voices, right? In a natural system where we don't have a formal hierarchy, there's still an informal hierarchy at play.
Right.
And I think when we are creating self-managing organizations, we're often trying to match the informal and the formal hierarchy, but it's not automatic. It's work that has to be done, right? So
yes.
Yeah.
So we have an idea of your view on the hierarchies and my view on hierarchies. They're not quite the same, but one would lead to the other. By the way, our view is that the things that we're proposing will happen. It's been getting better. We've seen progress. Some people feel more desperate and feel that they're so slow and all that stuff, but it's happening. So
slowly but surely,
it's going to be very different from 2024. The other aspect of it is ownership. Right now, companies have one impact they want to make in the world. They want to make the boss richer, and the boss could be one or many. The boss richer, and everybody else an employee. Do you do anything about that, or?
I mean, yes and no. Like the capital structures, the shareholder structures of organizations are not easily mutable if you're not operating at that level with the shareholders themselves. And I think there's different levels of ownership, right? I don't think it's a problem per se that in some organizations the people that work there are not shareholders, because still people can show up and own their work. They can own their role and the thing they're passionate about, and the type of transaction that you have there is I bring my energy and my brain to work, or maybe my hands or feet, whatever the type of work is, and I get paid by that. And that's not necessarily not necessarily bad. Like there's a even in a self-managing company, you can have you can have owners and a lot of entrepreneurs inside, and you can hire people to do stuff for you and with you, and there's different level of investment in the work and in the outcome. So yeah, but also, like, I do believe that if you really want to go all the way to the most optimal situation, that is that every person that is in the company owns a share, and that is helpful in a lot of different ways. But it's also the fact that that's often not the case, right? So how do we deal with those situations?
Right. So yeah, shares and things like that are not the answer.
Hmm.
Share is a realization by the Dutch, of all people,
Hmm.
that we can have a community of people that have capital
Hmm.
and buy a company in pieces. Buy our own piece of the company. You put
Yeah.
50%, I put 30, and stuff like that. So there's recognitions of a community that
Hmm.
has something to contribute to their capital.
Yeah.
And what we say in Radical is that there's a community. Everybody that works in the company is a community. And what they have to contribute is contributions. So
Hmm.
not their feet and their brain or anything like that. They're
Hmm.
co-owners of not shares. I think we just came up with the name RADS for Radical. And it's a recognition by the whole community
Hmm.
of this is a contribution, this is not a contribution, this is a
Right.
contribution.
Right. Yeah.
And based on that, when revenue comes in or capital comes in or whatever, you have rights to those things
Hmm.
based on the number of rights you have. You've accumulated, and like you said, the wiser, older, me basically,
Yes.
it is can contribute more, but sometimes we forget things and we just relax,
Hmm.
let
Yeah.
everybody do the work. And that came to us when we sold the company, and I received a third of the value of the
Hmm.
company, and my partner received a third, and everybody else received together the third. When in reality, I was doing a very small piece.
Hmm. Hmm.
Everybody else was contributing to the cost.
And how
So,
did you determine? How did you determine how much you got? How was it determined that you got a third?
that was traditional. Third for me, a third for my partner, a third
Okay.
for
Okay. Okay. Yeah. 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 Yeah.
very traditional shares
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
So, um, and that's what I'm saying. Shares have a fixed face value, right?
Mm-hmm.
If I got
Yeah.
50% of the company or 30% of the company, it's forever. You know,
Yes. Until
uh,
you sell or buy. Yeah.
it, people that have started Google and
Mm-hmm.
gave capital to Google um, got so many shares,
Mm-hmm.
and they're forever. And so Google has grown to be, I don't know how big it is now, but it's pretty big. They still own those shares.
Mm-hmm.
They'll say, "Oh, 10% of the company is mine." Holy
Yeah.
shit!
Yeah. That's a lot.
That's a lot.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and we're saying is no. If you're contributing, you earn more.
Right.
If you're not
Yeah.
contributing, heck with you. You're
Yeah.
not contributing.
Yeah. Yeah,
So
that's I mean, that's interesting, and we've used that at my previous company, where we had to figure out how do we, there's some dividend at the end of the year. No, it wasn't necessarily dividend because it wasn't to the shareholders, but like there was a profit sharing scheme. That's what I wanted to say.
yeah,
And how do we determine who gets what percentage of the profit, right? There
right.
was a and we've experimented with lots of different ideas. One of them was indeed a contribution based system, where we used a ranking tool. So you got, everybody got a link to a website which had, like, an app which had all the names of the people in the company, and you were asked to rank them in terms of how much did people contribute, in order. And and you would put people all low and high, and and that everybody's data points got collected and combined, and that created the picture of the highest contributors and the lower contributors.
Right.
And we did that every year. It's also not a perfect system, but it is close to what you're saying, Matt, where it's like, if you have contributed tremendously to the success of last year, on general, people will see that, and people can recognize that in such a way. And if that is then translated into, it's a pretty democratic way of translating it into actual profit sharing.
We have Carlos here, and he's gone.
We had our mystery guest.
Yeah, our mystery guest.
The podcast producer showed up like, "Hey, I'm still here. Good."
He
No
says,
worries,
sorry, lip sync is off.
That's what I wrote before.
I'll trim it. Sorry. Okay. Carlos is, for the audience, Carlos is the producer. He's the guy behind all the window shuffling and stuff like that.
Mhm.
And we decided a couple of podcasts before that we were going to use this format of one-on-one rather than two-on-one, which is heavy.
Yep.
And so he's been producing all this stuff, and it was a big deal to change windows. And
Oh yeah. It looks very very professional for sure.
yeah, now it does. But before it wasn't, because we're on the side, you be in the middle.
Right. Oh yeah.
If I said something, then I would go on the side, but there was a delay, and it was
Right. Yeah.
And we wanted people like you to feel more like a participant.
Mhm.
And you're right that the idea of kicking you out or something like that is important. So we'll consider that for sure.
Yeah.
Things. So you were saying that what we do is, rather than wait until the end of the year
Mhm.
to determine contributions, it's on the spot. So I'm
Mhm.
sitting here with my phone, which I don't know where it's at, and it's in my pocket, with my phone. And if I see you talking to somebody and bringing up, we had a case where I was in Mexico in one of the big offices,
Mhm.
and there was this lady sitting about 20 feet from me, something like that. And another one, the cleaning lady, came through.
Yeah.
And she went to the end, and when she went back, the woman was still kind of head down playing solitaire, and and she started talking to her.
Mhm.
But and I lost attention. I focused more on my work, and but then I hear, yeah, it's just lost, not mine. I looked, holy shit, that's a change. It's more herself, as she usually was. And so that's a big contribution. And I can, on my phone, say, Rosalba made a big contribution, and say the reason. Right. And rather than waiting until the end of the year, we did a similar thing. We waited until the end of the year. And then it was very difficult to come up with real contributions. So,
Yep.
so
Yeah, people's memories don't go back 12 months.
Right.
That's a problem.
You remember the last month, and that's it. And not very well. Whereas in the phone, you're doing it on the moment.
Yeah.
And it does make a difference, because
That's
it gives
interesting.
feedback to the person also doing the contribution, to say, oh, I did this. I didn't think it was a contribution.
Right. Yeah.
That's the other interesting thing, that people don't think of that as contribution. She was like mom to all the people in the building, and she didn't see anything as she did as a major contribution, and this was major, because she got somebody from just being down and feeling bad, and she had been dumped the night before.
Right.
And she turned that into hey, it's a win for you. You can look at other guys and stuff like that, and so rather than waiting until until the end of the year. Hold on a second. Carl's trying to tell me something.
Well, he's telling us who's next week's participant,
Yeah,
and
so next
she's amazing.
participant is Susan Basterville and partner at Great Dan Works.
Greater than, yes.
Yeah, and we talked to her before in another podcast that we had, and so I'm looking forward to it. I don't think I'm going to do that one. I think my partner Jose Leal is going to do that one.
Susan stayed at my house a couple years ago when she was
Oh, yeah?
visiting the Netherlands. Yeah, it was nice. Yeah, she's lovely.
She's a very, very nice person and very interesting. So,
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
What did she say with you? Was she helping you or?
No, she was traveling across Europe like she sometimes does, and we set up a dinner with. Well, she was actually just visiting Europe and wanted to meet me, and then when she came here, we said, well, let's have a dinner with 25 radical organizers, or like organization nerds, I call them, and that's what we did. So that's a big memory. Like lots of people, must have been 5-6 years ago, where some of this work was pretty new. We got a lot of good minds together and talked about what we had to do in the Netherlands to build this movement a bit bigger.
Yeah, in the Netherlands, I mean, you guys are doing a lot of things that is way ahead of the rest of Europe in farming, in organizing and stuff like that. So I got great admiration for what the Dutch are doing. So okay.
Yeah, and I think there's an interesting link here, and I said it before. Like Gerard Endenburg was the one who started codifying or experimenting with the system, the sociocracy system, sociocracy circle organization method. It's called officially, and that was in the 60s and 70s, right? So it's a long time ago, and I think the reason that could come to life was he was in a school where which was also radically organized, where the teachers and the students had an equal say in things. So the teachers and the students would make decisions together about how to organize the cleaning work, how to organize the school itself. So there was a lot of equal participation already, and that's what influenced him. And I think that could come to life because in culture, if you look at different cultures, the Dutch have a very low power distance, right? So our culture has very little distance between, or felt difference in authority. I don't know how to explain it. As opposed, like to put it differently, if a boss comes into a Dutch company and they said, you know what, you have to jump, people will say, you jump yourself. Like, who are you to tell me to jump, right? And in a lot of other cultures, it's like, okay, how high should I jump, right? That's the example I sometimes use to illustrate this. So a lot of the self-managing, self-organizing things were also like, it was a bit like a resistance to the typical authoritarian leadership. So that's why people are, experimenting a lot with that here.
Yeah. No, it's very inspiring in a lot of ways. And sociocracy was a big part of what got me thinking about it.
Right.
Holacracy, which you mentioned, doesn't. I think it's quite the opposite. It takes the superficial approach, but they have like 17-page constitution, which can blow up to be 47 pages, and it's more of a hierarchy of circles, rather than a hierarchy of people. But again, the circles are embodied by the people. And they exist only because of people. So I have no love for holacracy.
I'm also not. I'm not also not a super fan of the work. Although I do value their contribution to what moved. What their contribution to this movement, because some of the techniques that they've invented and practiced are super valuable, right? So one
Like
of
what?
them is one of them is two of them actually is the tactical meeting structure. When we the meeting structure that gets a team unblocked every week. We use that with C-level teams of all sorts of corporations that are not holacratic at all, but it's super helpful to go through a facilitated process where teams can get their needs met, as opposed to the traditional leadership team meeting that they had before. And the second one is consent-based decision making using IDM, integrative decision making, and we apply that as well everywhere where it's helpful outside of the holacracy frame. It has value in itself as a practice. So it's I mean, like every model and every method, it has its limits, it has its design principles, it has its projections from the person who made it. And I would tell everyone to look at those with a grain of salt, but pick the things out of it that you think is valuable to you. And this is even worse in the world of software development and agile and all the methodologies that are there. The moment a method becomes a blueprint, then you have to be very careful. But
Yeah.
in most methods, there are valuable things and there are valuable nuggets that you can use to improve your company if it is a response to a challenge you're sitting with.
Okay. Yeah. The consent-based decision making is social accuracy thing.
Yeah.
It
As a principle, it is. Yeah.
it doesn't come from holacracy.
No, but are
And
you familiar, Matt, with IDM, which is the decision-making process that they built on the principle of consent?
no.
Okay, so that I think so. Like I agree with you. Consent, the whole idea of consent was kind of popularized by sociocracy, and what holacracy built on top of that was a process where you bring a proposal. The proposer gets clarifying questions. There's a round of reactions. Then the proposer has a ability to integrate the questions and the reactions, bring their
Right.
final proposal, and then there's consent. So it's a very pretty rigid step-by-step process that is extremely effective to get a whole group of people tackling a complex decision in a short amount of time.
So that may be a way to bring, the way I would say it is, fiat company into the radical domain.
Mm-hmm.
In radical, we took the approach of going to the roots of
Mm-hmm.
Where does this come from, and not have it be something that I said in my bathroom and I made some notes in the toilet paper and then come out and said, "Oh, look, it's wonderful." We went to the roots as much as we could, and that's what we get to ownership, for example.
Mm-hmm.
Ownership, a lot of people have come really close to it, really close, but they treat co-ownership at Dutch Invention as a magical thing. Is you can't go past that. Co-ownership is given, and we build everything on, or ownership is given, and we build everything on top of it.
Mm-hmm.
And we went past that. We said ownership shouldn't be in the realm of who has capital. Ownership should be in the realm of who has something to contribute.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yeah,
and capital is important. Okay, no question about capital, but it's a negotiated thing. It's you give me $1, I give you $2.
Right. Yeah.
$100 and give you 150, or whatever the thing is. Or you can say, "Oh, in 5 years you're going to give me double the amount or triple."
Yeah.
And if I think you can do it, I negotiate it, and that. So capital is important to buy machinery, to buy this, to pay the equivalence of salaries when you're starting and stuff like that. But it shouldn't be forever. It must not be forever.
Right. Should buy dynamic fluid thing.
Yeah, dynamic fluid thing. Because otherwise, it's something you just can sit back, relax, and let other people do the work,
Mhm.
and then you turn into Google, which
Yeah.
is not a good force anymore.
Mhm.
So with that, we're running out of time. We ran out of time. Carlos has been trying to tell me, and I've been ignoring it.
Stop
But
talking.
because this is very
Stop it.
we're good, he says. And so, is there anything you want to close with, or?
Well, I wanted to say, Matt, that thank you for this conversation. It was interesting on many fronts. If people are interested, I am writing my second book, which I don't know the title of yet, but it is all about improving strategy, making better decisions, and getting better results. So, if you're interested in that, follow my work. Yeah.
Do you have a copy of the book that you can show?
No, because it's still I'm still writing it. I'm 90% done. It will be in stores in September. So I should be probably taking pre-order soon. And the ticker below shows you my current book is Formula X, and that's something I do have here, which I can show you. Hold on. All right, so here's my current book, Formula X.
Oh.
So it's a business fable.
I see it backwards, but
yeah, that's the camera flipping. I think the original will be fine. I promise you, if you buy it in the store, it will not look like this. It will actually look like a book that you can read. No, but it's a business fable. So I don't know if you're familiar with Patrick Lencioni's business fables. There's many authors out there. So it's a story. It's a novel you can read in a couple of hours, and it conveys a message about completely organizing your organization, putting teams and experts and people in the lead. And it's also inspired by the world of Formula One motor racing, because I'm also using that as a source of inspiration for accelerating organizations in lots of different ways.
That's a good one. Are you a Formula One person, or?
I'm a fan for sure. I visited many races. Been able to go behind the scenes of a number of factories, like where they actually produce the cars, and it's a fascinating world, because many people don't know that these teams are sometimes over 1,000 people big, and to build two cars and race it. So they suffer, or they have similar organizational problems as other companies do. In terms of how to divide the work, how do we learn, how do we innovate, how do we give feedback, stuff like that. But they've just found a way to do it in an extremely fast way. And so yeah, it's not perfect. No organization or model or metaphor is perfect, but it's an interesting world to research and talk about.
Okay, so since you touched on the thing of books, this is the collection of books that are written so far, and this one is a science fiction book.
Oh yeah, and then they want to burn you. Oh, cool.
And the idea here is to talk about what the world will look like with radical organizations.
Oh, that's interesting.
But knowing fully well that radical won't be according to me, it would be according to many people. And but it's kind of the same thing you did as the novel and stuff like that.
Yeah.
It was when I was writing the second book, mostly, there were things that didn't fit quite in the book, but there were good ideas, so I would make notes and stuff. And then I decided to make it into a book. It's my son, my older son, Jurriaan Perez, and I wrote all three books. And Jose Dal was a participant in wrote a big part of the first book, which we did as a conversation. We had conversations every week, and in out of those conversations, he had some ideas, and I had some ideas, and Adrian some ideas, and we would come to the closest to the route that we could find, and that helped quite a bit. I mean, I started the book as an homage to my previous company. It was, oh, we're great, we're doing, and I realized that we weren't that great.
Mhm. Yeah,
We're
yeah.
good, better than most companies, but not the ultimate one. So what was missing
Mhm.
was the ownership part.
Right,
Uh,
right. Yeah.
and and that's one of the difficult things to somebody who wants to be rich to say, "Oh, you don't own this company anymore; it's all of ours," depending on
Right.
country.
Yeah, yeah.
Uh, and we'll see. But some of the stuff that you mentioned is good to us how to make the transition. Because one thing that we're
Yeah.
missing is how to make the transition from one to
Right.
the other. And some of the things you mentioned might be good ideas for that. So
Yeah.
all right. So with that, thank you very much. It's been a wonderful conversation, and
Thank you.
uh, and that's it. We'd like Carlos to take his cue.
Yeah, Carlos is telling us to remind the audience about Susan Basterfield coming again because it was supposed to be mentioned at the end.
Oh, so,
So,
Matt, please remind the audience again. Susan Redfield was supposed to be mentioned at the end. Okay.
don't forget.
So yeah, she's going to be the next guest, and I can't. Here we go. And she's a wonderful person. We both know her, and looking forward to it. I think Jose is going to do that one. I'm not sure.
Okay.
All right. So now we're ready, and anytime you want, Carlos, take us out of this thing.
Thanks everyone for watching. If you're watching live.